Hey guys, quick one here today. Somebody asked what roles you should be playing if you're new to the game. And so here's my opinion as a support player. Obviously, somebody who loves support but started playing support very early on. I've played support pretty much my entire rank journey starting in bronze. And in my opinion, the best roles, and you'll hear this advice from a lot of people, but the best roles to start learning the game on are mid lane or top lane. And the reason why is essentially because let's look at the other roles and what essentially makes them not the best role to learn and be a versatile player on. Support and jungle are just too different from all of the other roles because obviously jungle very unique. All of the jungle camps, all of the clearing, all of that's going on is just very unique compared to what you're doing in any other role. Whereas mid lane and top lane are very similar to each other, and then the mechanics that you're learning in those roles are going to be the most refined and then the most changeable or adaptable when it comes to switching from mid to top lane and then playing like AD carry or playing jungle or support. And so if you I would say that ultimately, if you want to end up playing AD carry, I would start with mid lane, maybe play some champions that are similar to AD carries in mid lane, maybe play some AD carry champions mid lane, and then transition into playing AD carry. If you're wanting to play jungle, start by playing top lane because, again, a lot of the champion pool is very similar. Play some similar style champions or even the same champions that you plan on playing in jungle, and then switching to jungle later on. And if you're planning on playing support, play maybe a mage champion or something like that in mid lane so that you learn the positioning, you learn the trading and things like that. So why is this? Jungle is very unique compared to the other roles because you need to know where you're going and moving around the map constantly. It's a very macro-oriented, basically game plan, where the way that you farm is different than other roles in that it needs to be planned out and efficient in a way where laners just have to worry about last hitting. And then even if you understand how to clear properly on jungle, you have to make decisions on, when to gank and when not to gank. And so the whole gameplay pattern is very different. And then in terms of what actually makes you a better player at low ranks when you're first starting to play the game, it's, again, fighting and increasing your mechanics, right? We talked about this in the last one. Although League is a passive game, you want to be aggressive at lower ranks in order to strengthen your mechanics and learn how to play the game and your champions better. In jungle, you can't do that because you don't spend as much time fighting people. And when you do fight people in jungle, you're usually at like a man advantage. And so I don't think that fighting, in jungle happens frequently enough to make it as good as top lane or mid lane for developing your mechanics as a player and your champion mastery and knowledge as a player. Similar thing with support, right? Support and AD carry have issues. Let's start with AD carry first. AD carry is, I think, better to learn than support or jungle, but worse than mid or top. And the reason why it's worse is because you're interdependent on your support. And the problem with being interdependent on your support is twofold. One is that you're not getting the opportunity to 1v1 and really, test your mechanics one-on-one. You're having to worry about a completely different lane dynamic. And so it's not quite the same as 1v1ing somebody. And then secondly, I think especially for newer players or players at a lower rank who have a tendency to blame other people for their mistakes, you can easily get stuck, I think, as an AD carry because you permanently have someone to blame. And same thing goes for support. You permanently have someone to blame for your mistakes because you're always laning with someone. And it's very easy, I think, for people who are playing AD carry or support to blame the other person in their lane and stall out their progress as a player. Whereas I think most of the time, if you're playing mid or you're playing top, most of the time you're not going to be influenced enough by the jungle, right? That you're able to take a little bit more responsibility for what's happening inside of the game and inside of the role. And also AD carry, like we've talked about before, has less agency early on than mid or top. You have to get a lot of gold to be useful and relevant as a champion, but then you take over the game once you get a lot of gold. I also think that just in general in lower ranks, Well, actually, this isn't true. In lower ranks, the games go on for a very long time. So actually, playing AD carry is good in that sense because the games go on for so long that you're more likely to get to a stage of the game where AD carry is more useful. But again, you get the idea. So top and mid lane are going to test your mechanics the most, are going to provide you the most time to farm, to trade, and to fight as compared to any other role. And support and AD carry are too interdependent on each other. Support's ability to like roam all over the map and stuff like that, which probably a low elo support player is not going to do much roaming anyways, but it's easy to get, I guess, lost in what you're supposed to be doing and not spend as much time practicing the game properly. Same thing with jungle. Very easy to like spam gank and not really play the game efficiently. Even if you are playing the game efficiently and you're just like farming camps on jungle, I don't think that like farming camps is conducive to teaching you the game as much as playing like top or mid. So that would be my recommendation. Of course, it's totally good to switch to another role if you enjoy another role or another champion that fits better into another role. At the end of the day, I believe that you should pick and play whatever champion and role you enjoy the most, because if you pick whatever role and champion you enjoy the most, you're going to play the game more than you would on anything else. And that's what's going to make you a better player than any role selection would. So for me, I really enjoyed playing Leona when I was in Bronze and Silver. And then when Braum came out in Season 4, I played a decent number of games on him in Season 4, the first season he was out, and then I switched to maining Braum in Season 5 onward, and I've mained Braum ever since. And I just enjoy the champion a lot, to be honest. Like, I could play other support champions. I've played over 1,000 ranked games on Leona and some other champions. Trust me, if you ask me if I believe that I'm a one-trick, you'll get a very different response. I really do believe that I can play 10 different support champions that I have 300 plus ranked games on over the years, and I could pull out all 10 of those champions and play totally fine on them, especially knowing what I've learned now. I'd actually be better on them than when I was playing them back then. So I feel totally comfortable with playing, many, many champions. But at the end of the day, what helped me improve was that I was sticking to one champion that I really enjoyed playing and able to perfect that champion to a T rather than trying to, there's the saying, like a jack of all trades, master of none. And you don't want to be a jack of all trades, master of none. So look, if your favorite champion is in support and you can't stand playing mid lane, then just play support. If, your favorite champions and roles AD carry, then just play AD carry. It's totally possible to improve and to get really good at any role. And people get, good at the game at different paces from each other. And sometimes you see people start on support or start on AD carry and they do great. Other times you see people start on mid or top and not do so great. So it doesn't mean that by starting to play mid or top, it's such an advantage to learning the game that it'll make you so much of a better player that you should neglect doing what you want to do for fun. So always prioritize, playing what you enjoy playing so that will keep you improving, because you have to stick with what you know in order to improve on that. I often got to points in solo queue where I would plateau, I'd hit a peak, and I'd lose faith in Braum or whatever main champion I was playing, and I'd switch to playing other champions, thinking that would solve the problem. And what I was doing was creating a vicious cycle where I never actually got to play very much Braum at my peak, and so I could never improve past my peak on Braum because I was not putting in 100 games on Braum. I got to D4 and got stuck, like a lot of players. I wasn't sitting in D4 and playing 100, 200 games on Braum. I would get to D4, I'd play like 10 games on Braum, it wouldn't go so well, and then I'd switch to playing a champion that I shouldn't even be D4 on, and then I'd end up demoting. And I'd never put in the games, and then I eventually would switch back to Braum, and then I'd climb back to D4, and then I would get stuck again 10, 20 games later. And so I never put in the 100, 200, 1,000 games that you need in D4 on Braum in order to take my Braum to the next level, to get to Masters or to get to GM or to get to Challenger. So don't get stuck in that trap either. At the end of the day, when you get to a peak, when you get to a plateau, you're going to have to stick with the champion that got you there and what you'd enjoy doing to get there and what you know you're best. If you get to your peak and then you switch to a champion that you're like a rank lower on, if you think about each champion as having a different rank, if you start playing a champion you're a rank lower on, you're never actually going to, you're now working on improving that champion from plat to diamond instead of improving your main champion from diamond to masters. And so that can catch you in a vicious cycle. And then you think, oh, well, that champion didn't work this time, I'll try another one. And there's so many champions, you can just get stuck there forever, especially if it takes 100, 200 games to get back to where you were. So my advice is, if you really care about starting another role, start in top or mid lane, and then once you get some mechanics, once you get a little bit better at them, then you should switch if you wanted to be really efficient about it and you didn't care about having fun or playing what you want to play. Then you could switch to support, or you could switch to jungle, or you could switch to AD carry. But there's an issue here. For example, I play tank supports. I told you if you were going to play support, play a mage in mid lane. Well, playing a mage in mid lane isn't really very similar to playing a tank support in support. It's fine if you're going to play Sona. I think it would make you a better Sona player, a better Soraka player, a better Janna player if you got to gold or plat or diamond or whatever on mid lane first. But if you're trying to play Braum or Leona, I don't know that playing 100, 200 games to gold on Annie is going to help you play Braum better. I really don't know that it's going to do that. Maybe it would be more conducive to playing a tank in like top lane, like maybe if you were playing Malphite or something like that, or Shen, maybe that would help you play tank supports better. I'm not really even sure that that's the case. So obviously, if you were just caring about learning the game as quickly as possible, top and mid, AD carry and support, 2 interdependent on each other. Support and jungle, 2 unique of roles to easily be transferred to other roles that you might play in the game if you're not sure what role you're going to main yet. So I would say if you want to improve the most as quickly as possible, or if you're not sure what role you're going to play yet, start with top or mid, but keep in mind that you should just play whatever you enjoy the most, because that's what you're going to put in the most games on, and that's what you're going to have the most success with and improve on the most, because you're actually playing the champion. You can't really improve just by listening to me yap, for example. You do have to play the game. But anyways, good luck in solo queue, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.